Hello, welcome to Toffee TV. It's the final word. Me and Jack are going to try and pick our way through what was a horrible afternoon at Villa Park. Aston Villa 4, Everton 0. For me, it was always going to be a difficult game, this for Everton. And Jack, it was a bit of a depressing afternoon at Villa Park, wasn't it?
Yeah, we know Villa are a good side, that's the thing, and it was always going to be a tough game, but the manner in which we lost, the manner in which we conceded some of these goals, which we're going to have a look at, it was amateurish at times, and people might think that's a little bit dramatic, because maybe that gets said quite a lot about this team, but if you look at it in depth and you see some of the decisions and errors that are made, you are really left scratching your head and going, what reasoning is this? It's not just being beaten by a better side, it's really letting ourselves down at points and making mistakes that players at this level should not be making.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, mate. You're right. There can be a lot of sensationalism at times, and you can have these comments that come out, but you are left perplexed at times at some of the decision making from our players. And when you look at the stats, I heard Dyche say it after the game. You look at the stats, and there's a lot of them are very similar. Villa dominated the possession, but we know that that's something that not only Jhon Dyche's Everton team did, but people like Rafa Benitez weren't interested in possession as such. But at some stages in the game, it was quite even. The chances, I think Villa had 13 shots, Everton had 9. If we could have a look in a minute at the stats there, but a lot of them were even. The duels were very similar. There was those. If you look through the stats, you go, oh, it was a tight game, but it wasn't really. Villa were far superior. Villa were first to everything, wanted it more, and yet we were punished by some awful defending, and that's all I can say really. Awful defending.
Yeah, definitely. There's specific moments where this game is lost, and that might sound a little bit cliche to mention, but in all of the instances where we've conceded a goal in this game, you can look at the stuff and go, what is that? I don't understand now. Like, what's going on here? That is just such a poor showing from a few players at a time as well. Different players, other one popped up a few times, making mistakes. It was poor, and it's not what we've expected from this manager when he's come in. The whole thing around Jhon was he's going to get rid of silly mistakes, and we might be limited going forward, but at least we'll be solid at the back and we'll be organised. And we looked the furthest thing from organised yesterday. We really did.
Yeah, again, I can't really disagree with that, Jack. It's exactly what we were, and you're right. When Jhon Dyche was appointed, that's what I thought we'd be. I thought we'd be well organised, good structure, and then obviously your limitations will come from your forward players in terms of just because of top class forward players cost a lot of money, and Everton don't have a lot of money right now to spend. But could we find ways to correct that? And we just have, right now we're not in a good position, we're not in a good place, and the football club has got to do something about it and go and bring in reinforcements, because we've lost another 2 forward players yesterday. We've lost our most creative player, whether people like Alex Iwobi, don't like Alex Iwobi. The facts speak for themselves. He's our most creative player. And Dominic Calvert-Lewin, he'll certainly, I imagine, be missing against Wolves with a fractured cheekbone. They can become almost like the Phantom of the Opera and wear those masks, but, it may well be Sheffield United's return or after the international break. But let's get on to the game. The team came out, and I know some fans wanted to see Jarrad Branthwaite's name on that team sheet. It wasn't, but Dominic Calvert-Lewin was on the team sheet, which was a big boost for everyone. He'd come through game, and you're hoping then, right, can we get him the right service? Can we get runners around him? He'll give us that option. And the manager said we started quite well. I mean, we gave a corner away within 20 seconds, which wasn't a great starter. And I knew that Villa would start quickly and try and put us on the back foot, very similar to what Newcastle did to them the week before. I suppose we got through the first 5 or 10 minutes. We had a couple of moments ourselves. James Garner done brilliant little nutmeg and switched the play to Iwobi, and just couldn't get the cross right. And we did look like we had a little bit of counter-attacking in us. have you been surprised that hasn't been more of an Everton ploy under this manager, because we don't keep the ball, we're not a possession-based team? Would you not expect our counter-attack and play to be more of a weapon, if you like?
Yeah, I would, but the other side of that is we don't really have the pace for it. And at the moment we are lacking natural wingers as well, which is an essential part of that. Obviously, Harrison's come in and he'd suit that style of football once he's fit, and hopefully we're going to bring in another winger as well, and then maybe that's something we can look towards. But even last year we didn't really see it, did we? I think Jhon wants to do something in between what he's known for and a slightly more advanced style of football, but right now doesn't know exactly how he wants to implement that and what we're going to go to in our game to make that happen. It just seems to be a little bit of everything. Try and win the ball back in midfield, get it back to Pickford. Pickford's got a decent kick on him and we'll try and get it up the pitch. But more often than not, we seem to lose the ball.
Yeah, I mean, that to me, that cannot be a tactic in this day and age. We can't just bang it and hope for the best. There's got to... I don't mind sometimes if you're under pressure playing it back. Jordan Pickford has got, he can be quite accurate with his kicking. I've got no problem going back to front quickly and putting them on the back foot, but we do have to come up with another way of playing as well. It can't all be that's what you're working to, especially if... What annoys me about this Everton side is we almost try to play it out for the sake of it, because it invariably ends going back to Pickford, who kicks it back from where we started anyway. If you watch teams like, and the way Emery's trying to get Villa to play, and they've done it lots of times, they are building up and someone in midfield comes and takes it and then they catch it. For me, I'd rather, if we're going to do it, just go long straight away then.
Well, it just feels like we spend a lot of time just treading water with the ball, really, doesn't it? Not really doing anything and sort of waiting for an opening to come.
Is that because we haven't got someone who demands the ball and wants to take it and get us playing?
It's definitely part of it, obviously, because you need those players in the team who want to do it. But the manager has the authority to say, look, you, whoever that may be, I want you to try and make something happen. Take a man on, try and turn with the ball and look for a forward pass. It doesn't matter if you give it away, just try and make it happen. He has the authority to do that, and none of them are, so I don't think it's something he's particularly pushing anyway.
Well, if that's the case, then let's go back to front quickly then and try to do it that way. We did concede, which was obviously the worry that they have got some really bright attacking players. Got Leon Bailey, Moussa Diaby, Ollie Watkins is brilliant. Jhon McGinn, brilliant going forward. Luca Dean was given the freedom of Villa Park yesterday. We know that when he's on it, he can be, a real excellent attacking addition, can't he? And the goal for me again just highlighted Everton's structure. I've seen this with the Fulham goal last week. Even though we were the dominant team in that Fulham game, we should have won the game probably similar to what we've ended up losing this one. They took us out the game with 2 quick passes last week, and our midfield was gone. Was out the game totally. Into Harry Wilson round the corner and we're caught, and it's all of a sudden Duran. It's very similar actually to this goal because of the one ball that got put us in trouble, and that's what happened yesterday. We've got the some of the slides for it, so we'll have a little look at that now. So I've got the circled Everton's midfield, literally the 4 midfielders, because Abdoulaye Doucouré was playing almost as a split striker. We've got Iwobi, got Onana on his back, Garner chasing the ball, and James Garner has allowed Jhon McGinn a run on him, and the ball's played into it. Just look at the space Moussa Diaby's got. Villa have got Bailey, Diaby, McGinn, Watkins obviously between the two centre-backs, and I've circled Luca Dean on the bottom of the picture, who was all on his own. If we take it on, Diaby advances to the edge of the box. I've circled Jhon McGinn because he's the player who scores the goal. He's got Bailey off to his right, Watkins making a little run, Luca Dean there as well. So Diaby's in possession. Everton are quite narrow, aren't they? You can see Young, Tarkowski, Keane and Patterson really narrow. James Garner's got to be closer to his man. We take it on, it's rolled off to Leon Bailey, and Everton again here, we've still got players, looking at the runners, which is fine. Jhon McGinn is still ahead of Garner, but look at Luca Dean on the far post. If that would have gone in, say, first time, he'd be on his own anyway, and again, I just think James Garner's got to be deeper. We take it on again, it's into Bailey. He's now ready to commit. Ashley Young's gone out to it. And we've got Jhon McGinn next to Garner towards the penalty spot. Luca Dean still on his own at the back. But we've got Michael Keane, Patterson, Tarkowski, all in a line on the 6-yard box. Young out there as well. So you're saying, okay, they've only got Watkins at a near post. McGinn is trying to come across. We take it on again. Young's gone to ground on the next one. When we see it, there he is. Young and Tarkowski for some reason. And I didn't understand this at the time, why Tarkowski went to ground instead of facing it up. He can see the whole ball. He can see the play. And he throws himself. Now McGinn, Michael Keane's marking Jhon McGinn here. Garner's in there as well. There shouldn't be any way on earth Jhon McGinn is on his own to tap it in. And we take it on to the next slide. Jhon McGinn has just got a tap in. Michael Keane now has retreated to behind Jordan Pickford, which is the strangest bit of defending I think I've seen. Garner hasn't got this. James Garner has let him make the run. And all McGinn doesn't do anything clever there. He just makes a run towards the near post, which is what everyone does. If you're marking Jhon McGinn, why have you, if you're Michael Keane, sense the danger, here's an Aston Villa player, I need to go mark him. And we don't, we allow him to run to that near post, and as you can see there, he's got a tap in. Nothing Jordan Pickford can do, it's close range, and he just swept it in, and you're behind, and it's like, you're trying to keep a team that has been thumped on day one quiet. They've got a crowd, noisy, everyone feels good, they got into Europe, things are going well. All right, last week they didn't turn up, and hopefully we'll use this next week and bounce back, but you never know. Don't give them anything cheap, and we give them a goal. Like, you know, from a Villa perspective, they'll say, oh, McGinn done great, got in the box, Bailey committed the man, but that can be cut out quickly. I mean, am I being harsh?
No, you're not, because you are right in saying, you know, the Villa players have done well in that situation. You know, Diaby beat his man, Dun Young and Tarkowski. But there's so many individual errors from us in that passage of play. You know, that run Jhon McGinn has made, he's done the exact same thing we want Decore to do in our team. You know, the strikers pushed up, the back fours went with him, there's a man out wide carrying the ball, so that defence is being dragged back. There's no one with Jhon McGinn. He gets a free run into the box and gets to pick up whatever position he wants and wait for the ball to come to him. Keane's with him and then sort of seems to think that Jhon McGinn getting a shot off is guaranteed, and he has to go instead and stand on the line and try and block it rather than standing up to it and staying with him and stopping that shot from happening in the first place. You know, as a defender, that's sort of your first job, and I get it, you know, there is times when a defender can take up that spot next to the keeper and block the shot, but it's not guaranteed that McGinn was getting that shot off, was it? Keane could have stayed with him there and took it. And as for Tarkowski, I'm not sure why he's went to ground either. If Young's already went and been beaten as a centre-back, an experienced centre-back, you need to know that if you go to ground as well, if he gets round you, he's got a clean run then. You almost have to slow it down as well, you know, make the box more congested so there's less room for the ball and stands up to it. It's
not a great, you know, Bailey does well. It's on his right foot, he's predominantly left-footed. All he's done is just put the ball back. It's not a great, he's not like looked up and bent it round everyone to Luca Dean, who's tapped it in at the far post. What he's done is on his wrong foot. He's committed Ashley Young and he's just put it back into a danger area. If James Tarkowski watches the play, he's just got a simple volleyed clearance out for a corner, you get reset. He goes to ground, which means two of our defenders are out the game now. The ball clears them, so if Michael Keane is next to Jhon McGinn, McGinn's thinking, he could hit me here, Keane, you know, I haven't got a clear run at the goal. So even if he puts a foot out, Keane can get a block in as well. Why you retreat and let someone sweep it in from him? I don't understand it. And it wasn't just Michael Keane, but once he's got himself 1v1 with McGinn in that, but I don't understand why he retreats. I've watched it from behind the goal. He's in, he can see McGinn, he's with him, and he just runs backwards. And it's like, where are you going? It can't be what it is, but it shouldn't be what you've just said. I'll go and stand by Jordan Pickford in case he hits it and I can clear it. Because if you go out and face him, he's not going to get a shot in. So that's the frustration for me, because Villa are a good side. You know when you turn up there, you've got your work cut out. Don't make life easy for them. They've got good players, do not make life easy for them. And we have done. We've done it with Fulham last week. James Garner not tracking his man. All of a sudden, the lad's on the far post with a tap in and we lose the game. It's like, come on, lads.
Well, what we've mentioned there, as well as the individual errors that a few players have made, the other thing is the error in how we're set up. in that passage of play. And we weren't necessarily punished by this, but easily could have been. You know, we highlighted Luca Dean on the thing, how much space he adds, but that's because of how narrow our back four is. I think if your back four is that narrow, you almost need players, either your wingers or one of your midfielders, coming into where the full backs would normally be, and making it almost a temporary back six. Don't get me wrong, that it's negative, it's safe, but if it has to be that for that time being to get away with not conceding, that's what it has to be. If you're going that narrow, you need players filling those wide spaces as well, so the other team can't have that space.
And we highlighted the midfield in that, the oval. Everyone's in it. We're narrow all the way on the pitch. But again, I keep saying this. I don't know what our midfield setup is. Why is all our midfield here? And yet Villa have got a man with the ability of Moussa Diaby just on his own. If you miss our midfield out, then there's a big pocket of space in front of our defence for someone to carry the ball, and they happen to be carrying it with runners either side, like you said, and a midfield man breaking. Okay, it is good attack and play from Villa, because I think it's Douglas Luiz who comes inside and just pops it off his own arm and goes in. But if Garner is deeper, he mops that up. It's like, why are we like going back to the Fulham goal? Why are we all going up in a line? I think, you know, for me, I would like to see one of our midfield players, our defensive midfield player, if you want to say that, just sat in a triangle with your two centre-backs like it always used to be, and just mop that area up in front. And if you're doing that, you can push Onana on then, if he's going to be someone that's trying to break. But I also think it's okay out of form, you know, out of possession, going to 4-4-2, but go to 4-5-1 out of possession. Have the Decore further back. He's just stood holding Dom's hand, and you're not doing anything. You're not doing anything because they're advancing, and it's like, that to me is where we've got an issue at the moment. I think we probably need to be more of a 4-5-1 right now, or we certainly need to have one of our two midfielders sat in front of the two centre backs. That to me would rule out those kind of things.
But it's about making all 11 of your players useful at all times. Like, you know, Decore, he's in this team predominantly as a forward player. You know, that's what we want from him, to get goals or be a nuisance around the box. But when he's not doing that, he has to be a midfielder. He has to drop into that space. And then if he can fill that hole, that means one of your midfielders or your winger can go and cover the space behind them. It's about being useful all the time. Obviously, you know, maybe you want your striker a bit further up the pitch so he can pick up the ball if it goes long, or he can challenge for it. But Decore can almost be like a Sueto forward at times, but he has to be a midfielder as well.
He's got it. You know, so what you want Everton to do then is, you conceded, right, keep it nice and tight now. Let's get through the next 10 minutes and let's feel our way back into the game. You know, it's 1-0. Anything, you know, you need a set piece, whatever. Lo and behold, we go and concede another goal quite quickly, and another goal that should have been prevented. We'll look at got the stills of this one again. This is a ball that's already come in from the left-hand side, with Everton clear. It's out, and it's going to be put back in. Dominic Calvert-Lewin's trying to get out. They've got a circle here, because just looking at the still, Tarky has got two players. So there's an issue immediately. You know, we've got players everywhere else, but James Tarkowski's got two men. Michael Keane's got one. The ball's going to come in now, and as it comes in, you can see it in midair. Now, all of a sudden, Ollie Watkins has just peeled the wrong side of Michael Keane. Tarkowski is moving towards the ball, but doesn't get anywhere near it. Now, for Keane, he needs to be running towards our goal and not the other, and he just stands and watches. Now, I don't know if he'd have been quick enough, because it happens quickly, to have got back with Watkins, but one thing I do know, standing still doesn't help anyone. The ball comes in, it's Leon Bailey again, I think, as it drops in on the next one, and he's about to head it down. Now look at Watkins. Watkins is just on his own. I've got a line between Tarkowski and Keane by the penalty spot, and yet Villa's three attackers are the other side of our two centre-backs. It's knocked down, and obviously Jordan Pickford comes flying out. Keane still standing, watching. Pickford comes out and concedes a penalty. I mean, I don't know what he was doing. He might have just been better making himself big and trying to get a block on it. Concedes a penalty, and it's stroked in for two, and you're 2-0 down, and it's like, you know, it's game over, because we don't score goals. And Villa know that. You know, just after that, Jordan Pickford makes a save, a good save, pushes it onto the post, and Diaby, who's free in the box again off a cross. I don't think it's too much to ask our defenders to mark men when it's in the box. The most basic thing. If a ball's coming into your box, make sure no one's free. Got to be on your toes to react.
And that,
you never are.
That second goal where we give the penalty away, that starts really from Tarkowski having to account for 2 men. Obviously, one of them is going to get away from him, and at that point, it splits the whole back four. And then you've got a free man, and then Pickford feels the need to come out. Obviously, brings them down, and they've got a penalty. So that to me just looked like panic in the Everton back line at that point. They looked scared, like the backs are against the wall. They're a goal down away from home. They don't like it, they're struggling with it. All of a sudden they start doing irrational things. And I think that's where it comes to the mentality of the players and maybe them struggling under pressure and going a goal down, like Dyche said, and thinking, oh, well, the game's gone.
You can't have that because you're never going to develop. You know, we've seen so many times different managers have had a go at it where we lose 1 goal, we lose 2 straight away. And all of a sudden you're like, it's over. And yet we're never able to do that against anyone else. We're never the only one we really done it against last season was Brighton when we took our chances. But they're few and far between, where results like this aren't few and far between. Maybe not 4-0s, but how many games do we lose? 1, then it's 2-0 very quickly, and then you're like, this is over. And then the opposition just keep the ball, and we run out of ideas, and we don't find a way back. And that's the frustration for me. And but for a brilliant Pickford save, it would have been 3-0. And we just couldn't clear our heads. And then we did get a little... We obviously lost Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who'd gone for a cross and was hit in the face with the shoulder of Martinez, and his eye comes up straight away. And it was brave of him to stay on, really. I thought he was up. The minute he went down, he got up, there was a big lump. I thought, well, they're going to have to take him off because he could have concussion or whatever. And the lads tried to carry on and hasn't been able to. He had blurred vision. I know there was reports of some Evertonians booing him when he went off. I can't for the life of me understand that. I really can't. One of our own players being booed.
There's the argument they don't know it's the facial injury and how bad it is because they can't see, but still, I think in general, booing your own player for being injured is bad practice, really. He doesn't want to be injured, does he? No. And that's not even a repeated issue. That's flared back up like a muscle injury.
You still can't boo that, though. The lad,
oh, no, absolutely.
The lad himself wants to play for Everton, doesn't he? He wants to do his best. It's frustrating, of course, it's frustrating. But he's one of our best players. When he's fit and on it, he's one of our best players. We couldn't afford Dominic Calvert-Lewin right now when he's fit. I mean, that kind of player. Everton couldn't afford to buy that kind of player. So I understand people are frustrated, but
he'll be more frustrated than anyone with it, though, won't he?
Absolutely. So we went off, and obviously Danjuma come on, and I actually thought Danjuma was one of there wasn't many bright spots on the day, but I actually thought he looked quite lively. You could tell he wasn't fully like sharp, but he had a moment just before half time where we got in, and Martinez come out and spread himself well, made a good save. But there was a little bit of positivity there, a good little run, and should he have squared it? I don't know whether anyone was right there when I've looked, but the keeper's made a good save. Maybe should have just tried to lift it over Martinez, but there was a brief moment where you thought could be in here for 2-1 at half time.
Yeah, and it was a decent little move, and Danjuma looked lively, and he had the awareness to do the 1-2 and go for it, and obviously we didn't score, but that was probably our highlight of the half, and it was good to at least see, okay, at least we're attacking, and Danjuma looks lively, he's moving about, he's just got in behind the back four. It's a positive sign, it's the only one we can take. But then we didn't really carry that into the second half.
No, I think the numbers improved second half, as in possession, duels, passing, and all that was slightly better in the second half without having any real creativity. He had another run and shot which went wide. Neil Maupay came on, and Martinez made a good save from him. It's just the goal, like I said last week, the goal to Maupay is about this big with an Everton kit on, isn't it? It just looks like it'll never happen for him. But before that, we'd gone 3-0 down with another, and I haven't got the stills of this because we'd just be saying the same thing, but it's calamitous. It's a thrown into our box, and we're that worried about the ball into the box that Michael Keane just lashes a foot at it, and it goes straight to Leon Bailey, who runs and just hits a shot with his wrong foot at Jordan Pickford and it goes through the goalie. It's 3-0 and it fully is then game over totally after like 49 minutes or something. It was done and dusted.
Yeah, and it was a poor throw from Jhon and he puts Keane in an awkward position.
That's the fourth, that's some of the third.
Sorry, yeah,
Luka Dean's throwing. Yeah, absolutely. One ball into the box where we've got cover.
Undoes us straight away. Keane throws a big clumsy foot at it, can't control it. And straight away they're in.
You're in and it's done. And you're like, well, everything the manager might have just said of a possible route back into the game is gone. Out the window, 3-0. They're on party time. They make 3 changes. They'd all get in Everton's team. You know, and you're like, here we go again. And soon after that, we've got the 4th goal as well. And we'll just look at that because that was, again, I don't know what actually...
Probably the last player you'd expect an error like that from. He's the most experienced in the side.
Here we go. So he's thrown it back into that pocket. And we've got Michael Keane and Jhon Duran coming together. Keane comes out to the ball. The lad just knocks it through his legs. We take it on. And we've got Tarkowski trying to sprint back. But look at the lad's in. One touch and he's racing through on Jordan Pickford. We take it on one more time. Keane hasn't advanced at all. He just basically walks. Tarkowski's sprinting but is never getting
nowhere near him.
And the lad, Pickford, comes out. Could make himself a bit bigger. But the lad runs on and just clips it past Jordan Pickford for 4-0. And at that stage, you are fearing 5 or 6 because you're thinking, we're giving them goals now. They've not had to. If it's a great little move and someone smashes it in, you just go, it's a good goal. What can we do about it? But the 3rd and the 4th goal, that one in particular, was the cherry on the top, obviously, for us just giving them goals.
Yeah, at that point, it just looked like the team were playing on autopilot and weren't really thinking about what they were doing.
Yeah.
I don't want to say lazy, but it wasn't thought through. It wasn't done with the awareness you'd have earlier in the game, a 0-0 when you're still in the game. It was almost as if they'd given up at that point, and obviously weren't throwing the towel in, but weren't putting as much awareness and thought and just general alertness that you have on in a competitive game into it.
Yeah.
And, you know, it is done at that point, but still to throw goals away like that in those sort of situations, it's embarrassing.
Yeah, and you know, you've got 3,000 Evertonians who've paid a lot of money to go down and be in the ground and see that kind of performance. Like you said, Villa are a very good side. They don't need helping hands. And yet we seem to be hell-bent on giving them that helping hand, which is berserk and so frustrating. The manager brought on Luiz, who did all right, you know, did okay. Tried to take a little bit of the fight to Villa, didn't he? But we just didn't. There was no conviction in anything we were doing. We'd lost our focus in the middle in terms of Dom. And it didn't really happen, you know. When we got to the edge of the box, we were sloppy, like Mopai a couple of times, sloppy passes when we had, you know, 3v2s behind people. Decore guilty of exactly the same thing. Get towards the edge of their box and then hit a ball like at one of the Villa plays. And you know, we also lost Alex Iwobi with a hamstring injury as well. So not only was it a bad defeat, it was also an expensive defeat.
Collateral to it as well.
Exactly, you know, Dom, like I said before, probably out for a couple of weeks. Alex Iwobi, he looked in pain and he doesn't really stay down, Iwobi. So when he stayed down, you knew it was a bad one. We could lose him for 6 weeks or something like that. If it's a grade 1 tear, we obviously haven't had that confirmed right now, but at the time of this, but he could be missing for 5 or 6 weeks with that. And we're gonna have to come up with a way of playing without him, because like I said before, he is our most creative player at the moment. We've already got Dwight McNeil missing, we've got Jack Harrison missing, you know, and this flips back onto the recruitment team and the club of going and getting players in this week. We've got a huge game at the weekend. We need attacking options in, don't we?
Yeah, and you know, maybe we need to utilise the ones we've got as well. I know maybe Dan Juma isn't fully up to speed, but the James Garner on the wing experiment isn't working either. No. And obviously if Dan Juma plays in that position, he plays a different type of role. But if he fits that role better than James Garner's fitting is, that immediately makes us a bit more, I don't know, just a bit more confident on the ball, because he knows what he's doing. At least James
Offensive.
Garner. Yeah. But James Garner isn't a winger either.
No. Well, he tucks in naturally, which means Patterson's exposed. And people will have a go, Patterson was like, well, he's playing 2v1 like he was against Fulham. You know, it's not like, you know, and that's not, James Garner's just not used to that. If he does anything, he drops into a right-back position. So we're getting nothing offensively anyway from it. You know, when you look ahead to Wolves and you go, well, there'll be no McNeil, no Iwobi, no Harrison. You know, straight away, no Damari Gray, because, you know, he looks like he may well be off to Al-Shabaab. Well, Everton are trying to sell him to Al-Shabaab. So immediately you're going, well, all right, Dan Juma might be fit. So does he start Lewis Dobbin? Or does Garner just play there again? Because we haven't got anyone else. So instead of adding to attacking options, and we'll have no Dominic Calvert-Lewin in a game that is now almost a must-win. So straight away you're looking and going, well, we need to, you know, if it's Shea Adams, then they need to get him in now. If it's Willie Nonso, then there needs to be a deadline. If it isn't him, go and get someone else and get them in by Thursday so they can play on Saturday. None of this, are you Dyche fit? They need to be in the side because it's a game we have to win.
Well, it'd be better to have 60 minutes of a better player, the player who's a better fit, than 90 minutes.
Well, maybe you can protect it. If you could get a lead, then you can protect it with someone like James Garner.
Yeah, and then you can have, you know, a right midfielder who'll tuck inside or cover the right back spot when you are under pressure, and you do go into less of a formation and more of a role.
Yeah.
At that point. But yeah, I'd just rather have the players in the team at this point, to be honest. Even if they aren't going to do the full 90, we can get a lead and protect it, like you say. It just needs to be done at this point. We need the bodies in the door. Certain things aren't working. James Garner isn't working as a winger. You know, Dan Juma might have to play at striker now because Calvert-Lewin's out, but I'd rather we just took the risk on Chimiti if we don't have a striker through the door and put Dan Juma out wide.
Got Tom Cannon on the bench. I'm not saying Tom Cannon's Premier League ready or whatever, but he's a centre forward. You know, but we know that they'll go back to Neil Mopai, won't they? Obviously, if they don't have Shea Adams in. But that doesn't work for us because we play a different way. So it is that we're making our own problems because our recruitment is poor. We're too slow at what we do. You know, there's uncertainty around the football club still. What's happening with MSP? We were told that'd be done this week. A few weeks ago, well, where is it? There's no update on that. Is it going to be done this week? Maybe it will. Everton might announce. It could be announced today, tomorrow, whatever. But we need that certainty. New blood needs to come in. The new chairman, a new CEO. We need to get it in. We need to start moving forward. But the recruitment right now is what we need. And Everton need to find money. They need to find some money to strengthen it. This window's got 11 days to go. It cannot close with us undercooked again in terms of the squad. We've already given 2 games away. Now, Aston Villa away, like I said before, they're a good side, so that might have been a defeat anyway, because they're a better team than we are. But Fulham at home, we blew against a very poor side.
Very winnable game, wasn't it?
Mate, it should have been what that score was. It should have been with the team we had out, but if we'd have actually added a little bit extra, we probably would have beat them. And then you'd be sitting there going, all right, we've got 3 points from 6 and a home game to come, right, let's kick on. We're not. We're sat here with 2 defeats the same way as we did started last season.
Not scored a single goal.
Conceded 5. It's embarrassing. So there's got to be a lot of soul searching in the next 24 hours from everyone at Everton. Go out and get the job done. Don't be getting people to pat you on the back for no reason, which I've seen a lot of this summer. There's no evidence that we're working as hard as we can and we're getting people in. There's none.
And for things to change on the pitch, we do need those new bodies in. For that to happen, maybe Everton need to walk away from certain transfers we've been chasing for weeks. If they're not done yet, are they going to be done in time? And have we wasted an entire window on a player who'd improve us by all means? But there's other players out there who could do the same thing for the same money. Yeah. But then we've ended up with neither because we've settled on one and we've been obsessed with one and then we've not been able to get them.
Well, back onto the players who we have got. Said before about Dan Juma, thought he'd done all right. I thought he looked lively. But again, a couple of times he got into the box, decision making wasn't very good.
It was an encouraging
but
performance.
He tried, didn't he? Let's have a little look at his numbers from the, because like I did think he'd done okay. There's his heat map there. He had 4 shots in the game, 1 on target, completed 100% of his dribbles, won 4 out of 6 of his ground duels, and had a passing accuracy of 94%. he's only going to get better the fitter he gets, isn't he? He can play, like you said before, he can go through the middle, but I actually think he's better in wide areas. That's when he went in wide areas, he looked nice and lively. And he is someone, if he can get a full week's training in this week ahead of the game, he will start at the weekend due to injuries and everything. But he is someone we can be a little bit positive about, because he does look nice and bright and lively, doesn't he?
Yeah, especially with the absence of Calvert-Lewin as well for the weekend. You know, we've only seen a little bit of Danjuma, but it's encouraging early signs, you know, not to put too much expectancy and pressure on him, but he has the makings of a good player from the look of it. One of our better players at the weekend, although the bar wasn't very high.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'd be nice to see him fully settle into this side now. You know, he's had his appearances off the bench in the first 2 games. Let's give him the reins now, especially while Calvert-Lewin's out and a lot of other wingers are out. Let's give him his chance now and say, okay, you've done all right at the weekend. You're one of our only options. Go in, give him the chance, whether that's through the middle or out wide or wherever it is. I think he has to be in the team for multiple reasons now.
Yeah, got to. He's got to. This is, again, without going too knee-jerk, Wolves at home, it's an opportunity for 3 points. It'll be a tough game. I watched them on Saturday against Brighton. They were all over the place. But that was Brighton. Do you know what I mean? Brighton scored 4, they could have scored 9. Wolves could have got a couple themselves. But you've got to have runners. You've got to have people who are positive, waiting for the odd opportunity. We'll be encouraging Wolves onto us. And Everton have got to work on that. It's an opportunity. If we come out of Saturday with no wins, then you do start worrying, because we've had 2 home games against teams you'd expect to win. You've got to be expecting to win these home games.
And we can't go down the route again of throwing away these winnable games at the start of a season, because we're just giving ourselves more to do later, further along in the season, and just making the whole ordeal more stressful and giving ourselves must-win games against better teams, which is completely unideal. So let's get 3 points on the board now. Let's actually score a goal, and let's figure out what's going on at the back as well, and get a bit more organisation in that team.
Absolutely. And you're right, Jack. I mean, we haven't, this isn't being disrespectful to Wolves. They haven't settled yet either. So while they're unsettled, let's go and beat them. They've lost their opening 2 games, the same as us. They've conceded 5 goals in the 2 games. They're ahead of us by virtue of scoring a goal on Saturday. That's it. So, we've got to take the bull by the horns this weekend, and we'll take the wolf by the horn. It's got horns by the paws. I don't know what you'd say. And try to just get past them to get that win out the way and build from there. They'll improve, I'm sure, Wolves. Hopefully we'll improve. But let's get that victory. One other player I thought did keep going. I didn't think he had a great game in terms of his position, but I think it's more to do with where the managers played him. But he did keep going for me, and he did want the ball all the time, and that was James Garner. Let's have a look at his numbers from the weekend. There's his heat map. Key passes: 1, completed 100% of his dribbles, 33% crossing accuracy, won 5 of his 7 duels, and had an 86% passing accuracy throughout the game. And he's done all right. Again, he's not a right winger. If you look at, I was going to put the positions up, average player positions. Again, he's holding Nathan Patterson's hand almost in a right back position. We can't, there's no point to that, because it leaves us lopsided totally. He's not doing one or the other. Do you know what I mean? He needs to be higher up. For me, he's going to be a centre midfield player. And so therefore, if Abdoulaye Doucouré isn't on his game, take him out the team. Or Amadou Onana, if he's not performing, get him out the team. Get Garner in there. If it's Dyche not performing, although I think we've missed Dyche more than the other 2, to be honest with you, doing the midfield job, then give James Garner his time in there. But we need as many attacking players as possible in this team. But we've also got to make sure we've got people who want the ball. And the one thing I will say about James Garner, he doesn't go hiding. He always wants the ball. Onana has got all the tools and yet disappears in games. Did it again at the weekend. And I actually tipped him to be like one of our players. I thought he'd grab it this year because he's got the experience now. He's, like I said, he's got everything. He's built 6'5". He's huge, big shoulders. You're like, go and dominate this game. Abdoulaye Doucouré's been way off it in the opening 2 games, way off it. Dyche has had better games than what he had yesterday. But I think James Garner in that midfield might give us something different. He might have to be patient if the manager doesn't think he can do it, and we'll go and sit him on the bench then. Because we need an attacking option on that right-hand side. But I thought, for what it's worth, he did keep going yesterday and he did want the ball.
I feel a bit sorry for James Garner, to be honest. He's being hung out to dry at the moment. Like I keep saying, he's not a right winger, so he's not going to perform well in that role. Obviously, he's going to show for the ball when he can, and like you say, like the heat map shown, he was up and down the pitch, he didn't stop. But he doesn't play that position, it's not his role. And like you say, in midfield, he could be that player we mentioned before, having a player who can sort of grab the game by the scruff of its neck and try and make something happen. Just turn on a man, try and go past them, or play a forward pass down the line to your winger. He can do that, but it's not going to work every time because, you know, he's not a perfect footballer. He will misplace passes and such, but he does have the mentality of a player who will try and make that happen. Onana can be that player sometimes. You know, last week he had an alright game and he made a few chances, but he's not that player enough. He's still learning and he seems to shy away at times when it's tough in there. James Garner having him in there and making their moves as well maybe gives Onana the confidence to be that player we know he can be as well. Having someone in there who can help him, who's a bit more, you know, down to earth with his football, doesn't have the same physical attributes that can give him a 10 out of 10 game that Onana has. On those rare occasions he does switch it on, but he has the mentality, he has the hard work, and together along with Gueye in there, they can be an effective trio in the midfield.
Yeah.
But it's about getting him in there and getting him off that wing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd move personally, and I'm not Everton's manager, so it's irrelevant, but I'd almost want a flatter 3 in midfield, and Garner's one of them, and have a winger who was going to get up, and Garner can play on the right too, try and help Nathan Patterson if he needs be. Right now, and this sounds mad because we aren't scoring goals, but it'd be Abdoulaye Doucouré, who I would be looking at as like maybe coming out the team and being sub. But for me, it'd be a flip between him or Onana if we're playing a back 3. If we're playing a flat 3 in midfield just right now, because I don't think neither of them right now are going, I deserve to play in this team. Doucouré can't live off last season. Last week against Fulham, he broke through brilliantly, and all he had to do was knock it square for James Garner to tap it in, and we're winning 1-0 after 3 or 4 minutes. Clever play. Chooses to go himself. You make that choice, you've got to score. If you decide to go greedy rather than roll it square for a tap-in, you have to score. And he didn't. Other than that, he's done nothing. He was, for the rest of the game last week, he didn't have a great game. And yesterday, Villa Park, he done nothing. Not that he didn't try, he was trying, he's just not, it's not flowing right now. And that midfield 3, I think the manager has got to get right. It might be for 3 weeks that James Garner's in there, and Doucouré's out, or Onana's out, or whatever. And then in 3 weeks, we're ready to change to something else, and then he comes in and Garner comes out, or whoever. But you've got to find that harmonious 3 in the middle that are going to give us the right structure, because right now it's not there. We've seen evidence on the stills we've put where there's big gaps. They're in a line. We saw it last week against Fulham. They're in a line and there's just big pockets of space in behind. It can't happen where one ball kills your midfield. It can't. And that's what the manager and the coaching staff have got to come up with. And like you say, playing James Garner on the right-hand side and expecting him to be almost like a winger in a team that has no goals doesn't work for me.
Well, Doucouré in himself is a bigger goal threat than our other midfielders generally. You know, statistically, he has scored more
absolutely.
than the others. But at the moment, he's not scoring. So then you've got to look at what you're getting from Doucouré when he's not scoring. At the moment, it's very little. Because yesterday, he wasn't even getting on the ball and he was too far up the pitch. He wasn't dropping down. And it was like playing with 10 men. And that's not all necessarily Doucouré's fault. It's just the role he was in wasn't working in that game, and that should have been changed.
Well, if we were it was almost like we were playing 4-4-2, right? So if we're playing 4-4-2, then just go long then. You may as well go direct. Well, if you're going 4-4-2, you may as well have 2 strikers then. Someone who actually knows how to, knows how to put the ball in the net and then play Neil Maupay. But, at least he's dropping in and you've still got a centre forward, or is it Yusuf Chimit? Is it Tom Cannon? Whatever. Have a specialist striker.
But the point of Decore being in that role is that he
he
can drop
drops
back
into
as well,
midfield,
but then he didn't do it
and
either.
he's not doing it. So there is definitely a conversation to be had about that midfield three. It's not working right now. Not that it can't, because at times last season it did. Not that it can't work, but I just think right now we need a little bit of something different just to maybe get us into a mode of playing it a little bit of a different way. Because we're going to have to be offensive against Wolves, because we're sitting, and what are we hoping for?
But we need more stability on the ball, don't we?
Got to have someone who wants the ball in midfield. All three of them don't really want the ball, do they? If you think about it, no one's demanding the football, are they? Onana's not getting the ball every, turning, pushing people out the way, travelling, knocking it left, right, ping it. There's none of that going on.
Higuain's never been that player.
Yeah, well, he's a presser, isn't he, really?
Good midfielder, but he's not that player.
He's not that player.
And then Decore's never been comfortable
Decore's a runner. Decore is a runner. It balls in and he runs beyond the striker. That's what Abdoulaye Decore is.
He's better than Ram, isn't he?
Yeah, and he has got a goal in it. So it might be that for an hour you have the other three, and the last half an hour he's on for a couple of weeks, and he comes on, it changes it, because all of a sudden you're a midfielder who's running past the striker, but you have. Do you know what I mean? And it's those kind of things, but it just feels like, and a lot of it will be dictated by injuries as well, but it just feels like right now we're just doing the same thing and hoping it works when there's been no pattern for a while. Brighton was fantastic. It was superb. It was great. Everything worked that day, and you come out, you watch that game, we're like, oh my God, this is what it must feel like to watch your team there at the top. But the fact I'm talking about Brighton, that happened in May and it's the end of August, it's still, it tells you. And it's the fact that that's one of the only times in this year where I've looked and gone, God, we look like an all right team here. Everything else is, yeah, we've got players, but we don't look like a team. Everton have got individual players that are good footballers, well, they're all, decent footballers, but one thing they aren't is a good team.
No, we need to be more tactically diverse, don't we? You think that's the main thing, especially when it comes to that midfield. We need to have different plans for different styles of players.
Absolutely. Let's have a look at the match stats from the game. There you go, Aston Villa 4, Everton 0. 13 attempts at goal for Villa, 9 for Everton. 7 on target for the Villains, just 2 for Everton. 5 big chances for Villa, none for Everton. And it ended with a 60-40 possession split. I think the XG was 3 for Villa and 0.4 or something for Everton or whatever.
Better in every department.
They were. There's no... I couldn't sit here and go, oh, Villa were a bit lucky there, but they deserved to win. Fulham last week was a little bit of daylight robbery with the win, but Villa were fully deserved their victory and put us to the sword when they got the chances, and that's what good teams do. And we should have done that to Fulham. We should have put Fulham to bed last week, and we should have been sat there on the Monday talking about a home win like that. Villa have just gone, these are there for the taking, and we're going to take the opportunities. They took them brilliantly, and we've ended with a 4-0 defeat. So fair play to them and a good side. For us, we have got some issues. We've got issues. We probably need 3 or 4 more players coming in. Really, we're talking about, we need 100% need a centre forward, 100% need a right winger. We need another centre back coming into the club, and I'd personally be looking at another centre midfield player to come in, see what's on loan, see what's available. But we need that to come in just to freshen this whole thing up. And with players who you can use and players who you can drop, lads who think they're undroppable in our team, so that everyone's got to be on it. Standards are slipping at the football club. They're getting weird. They're being eroded. If you just look at the team from 2 years ago to what it is now, it's been eroded. So we've got to correct that very quickly. And there's so much going on. There's so much in flux in the club, isn't there, with what's going on off it as well.
There's just so much uncertainty, isn't there? And this was meant to be the summer of, clean slate. Everything changes. We're all hoping, hopefully the owner goes, new investments, and we're going to get rid of half of this squad. All the hangers on who've been around for years and not contributed, they're going to go. And we're going to make 6, 7, 8 quality signings, a lot of young players coming in. We're really going to start again. It's just not happened, has it?
We're almost in the mix, aren't we? We're in a position of in between, aren't we?
We're almost half doing everything, but don't half having a transfer strategy. And a few board members have left, and we're going to try and sign a couple of exciting players, but not too many of them. Fully commit at this point. Change everything. Everything goes. Start again. It all needs to change.
Do you think we will finish now, but do you think they're waiting for that big reset at the new stadium?
Yeah, and that can be part of it, but we need to realise that we need to be on good footing when we move into that stadium. The club needs to be already moving in an upwards trajectory when we go into there.
Yeah.
It can't start then, because if it does, we might be starting in the Championship.
Yeah, you've gone there. You've gone with chilling words at the end of this, but I suppose that's how we're all feeling today, aren't we? It was a horrible, horrible afternoon in the Midlands for Everton, and a 4-0 defeat. And like I say, there's 11 days to go at the time of recording this in the transfer window, and Everton need to be busy. They need to be busy. We've essentially spent nothing so far, really, have we? We've got loan players in. We need to get the players out who don't want to be here and get some money for them. We need to bring our own players in, and there needs to be changes. The manager needs to not be cosy with any players. He needs to make some decisions now and stick to them. Proper decisions, tough ones for him personally maybe, but we have got to start showing the players in this squad that it is unacceptable to put in performances and to make mistakes. You've got to make that competitive for everybody in that squad. Lads who haven't had a go in the team yet can't be looking at other players and thinking he can make whatever mistakes he wants when I never get a game. That cannot be a mantra for anybody. Everybody has to feel like they're up against it. Everybody has to feel like I have to perform every week. Those fans who travel the bleeding length and breadth and width and everything of the over to Switzerland in the summer and Austria, whatever, to watch them, need to see the players giving everything and knowing that the football club is trying everything to become as competitive as it can be and not just fobbing us off with nonsense. So it has to start, and Everton have to start acting properly like a Premier League football club that wants to develop and wants to stay in the league and wants to perform and wants to get better. Have someone driving the football club forward. And if there's no one in house to do it, get someone in. But the owner has got to do it. He's got to do it now. Drive this club forward. Get this MSP thing over the line if that's what it is. Let's move on. Right, we're going to continue on Premier in a short period of time. Won't be long. If you want to become a Premier member, the link is in the description. Otherwise, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and let us know about Everton's midfield. What would you do with it? And should we move on from Wilfred Nonso if that deal isn't going to get done? And if yes, if so, who would you be targeting? See you later.